Do you want your solo plays to feel like the world is alive and the factions are making decisions independent of yourself even though you are the GM and the player? Well, a book like this one might be able to help you out. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel. I am Sacred, and this is the Sacred Art of Gaming, where we like to discuss tabletop gaming with a focus on solo play. And today, we're going to be talking about factions and how they can make your game feel alive. I've really been feeling inspired specifically by, even when I played Blades in the Dark for the first time, I felt inspired by the factions. But this is one of those books that I like to just keep coming back to. And I learn from it more as I relearn it every time, or re-experience it is probably more accurate. So let's get right into it. There's a lot that this book offers, and we will probably talk about this book again, but we're gonna try and focus just on the factions here. So there's some really cool things that Blades in the Dark that I think really nails. And first we're gonna talk about page 44 here, where they discuss the faction game. And they give you a nice little blurb here. It's if you don't know, Blades in the Dark is based on a city called Dustval, so it's a kind of a urban type of campaign built around like crime and theft primarily, and you have a gang and stuff, which is really cool. But this concept you could apply to anything really. So, yep. City of crime, top to bottom. Every faction preys on others to survive. Alliances are fleeting, vendettas are bloody. Into this chaos of corruption and violence, your fledgling crew has set its course. Will you be crushed or will you rise up? So, some things to note here. Not that this is necessary, but it's cool nonetheless. Gangs have tiers, as they should. And feel free to reskin the word gangs into whatever you want for your type of game. It could be cults, it could be factions, it could be like countries, it could be alliances, whatever, right? I can't help but read stuff like this and immediately think about how, wow, this is really cool for this game, but what if I applied it to religion? Wouldn't that be cool? You have the tiers that basically just break down the differences in the size and power of the different gangs in this case, which is cool. They also have holds, so that kind of lets you know if they have a strong hold or a weak hold. And that's their current position basically. So that'll give you an idea as to like if a faction is gaining in power or losing power. Yep, how well they can maintain their current position on the ladder. W indicates weak hold, S indicates strong. Your crew begins with strong at tier 0. So you start tiny, which is cool because gaining in power is fun. So we kind of talk about development here. When you complete a score, you get rep, which, okay, that's cool. But the main things that I really wanted to focus on, don't get me wrong, rep is a big part of this game. And could definitely be used for this portion here. And this is going to be like your claims. So imagine like you're playing a game with like a world map. And maybe these are different countries. Maybe it's not like blocks in a city. Maybe it's different countries or regions or whatever. That could be the influence of your religion, for example, or of your cult, or of your country. Because you could have, maybe those surrounding regions don't necessarily belong to you like you didn't take it over by military force, but maybe the people in that region are sympathizers to your cause for whatever reason. So that is a thing that could happen. And there's also like key portions on this little graph. So like imagine just using this in different ways. There could be a lot of like, imagine this luxury venue, maybe in a world map, could be something like maybe a rare mineral or something like that. really cool. Kind of gets the juices flowing for other stuff. And I always love the idea of a game loop, right? So for solo play, I find that solo play does the best, in my opinion, when two things are happening, which Blades in the Dark does very well. It is bigger than just your one character. That's number one. So in this case, you have like your clan, your gang, right? So even if your character dies, you can still continue to play another character in the game. So there's that, but then also the gameplay loop of like something to build upon. I'm actually playing Armored Core 6 right now, and I think that's a solid gameplay loop where you just constantly, I'm so off topic from this, but it's in my head. You're slowly getting money, and you just unlock new tiers of shoulder weapons and legs and arms and all these different pieces, and you just slowly continue to build out your mech and all these different pieces, and it's really fun. Similar deal with maybe say like Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter Wilds, whatever one is the most recent one. You basically kill a monster over and over and over to get rare materials until you can get really cool armor with it, etc. And I think there are some solo games that do that very well. This is not a specific solo game, but I see the potential that is there. So yeah, you can seize claims, you can defend claims, really cool concept. But the main thing that for some reason just jumped out in my mind and was like, I need to open up Blades in the Dark again because I feel like this portion is really cool. And at a glance, it may be obvious. Yes, of course. Maybe you start as neutral and you can have like a plus, up to a +3 if you become their ally, and -3 if you're full on at war with them, right? But what I love about this is that it's gamified in a way that is bigger than just your obvious and direct action. Let me explain. So if we go back here to the actual factions, as you can see, there is quite a few factions that start off in this game. So let's start with, I believe the Crows, I think is a good example. All right, so this is awesome. I love this little detail for the faction, right? You got everything you need to know. The Crows, they're tier 2. They're an old gang with new leadership known for running illegal games of chance and extortion rackets. They want to reestablish control of Crow's Foot, which is a region. You do have a map for the city as well. And they want to rise in tier. And these are clocks. Another amazing thing about that, could be a whole video in itself. So they want to get their turf back. Great. It breaks down some NPCs. Very cool. And it lets you know, what their deal is. So Lissa, leader, brash, killer, noble family. Bell, second command, loyal. That would be very different if Bell was not loyal. Notable assets, cool. Quirks. This is interesting. Rorik's body was lost during his murder. It fell into a canal. His vengeful ghost is now at large in the city. Rorik, I believe, is the former leader, if I remember correctly. So, whoa, that's, that gets the juices flowing. Allies. This is the important part. Allies. The Bluecoats, sailors, the Lost, citizens of Crowsfoot. And then your enemies, the Hive, inspectors, and dockers. Now, let's say you do a job for the Crows. You do a job for the Crows and it helps them out. Maybe you have the most change with the Crows directly, but in my opinion, and I can't think of a good example of a game that does this, but I feel like at the end of a quest or the end of a mission, etc., a lot of times you can see how your disposition, or maybe their disposition is probably more accurate, changes based on what you did. I can't think of a good solo game that necessarily tracks it, but it definitely exists in video games because it would be a lot easier. It might be, this is a good amount. You don't necessarily need this many factions to be accomplishing something like this. You could easily do it with like 25%. You could do it with like maybe something more along the lines of like what 13th Age has for their was it Paragon system, I think. So here we go. Let's say the blue coats, for example, the thing that you did for the crows was also very beneficial for the blue coats. So now you're building like an alliance, so to speak. And then also something that maybe your character wants to do may go against something that the blue coats want. So let's take a look at the blue coats, which are here. They're City Watch of Dustfall, known as the meanest gang in the city, corrupt, violent, and cruel. Okay. They have their own allies as well. So like, let's say for example, you do something that bothers Lord Skurlock, which is an ally of the blue coats. The blue coats may be a better ally with the crows than you. So you can see how this can get like real Game of Thronesy, real interesting, real fast. Could you say, hey, Sacred, that might be a bit much for me to manually manage? And yeah, you would be right. If that's the kind of thing that makes your head spin, or if you are the kind of person that makes your head spin instead of getting you excited, then yeah, that probably wouldn't be for you. You may want to implement it in another way or not implement it at all. This will probably be more so for people that just get excited about that. And you could get excited about that today and hate it tomorrow. You're allowed to change your mind. So yeah, I would love to implement a solo play, whether it's through this or Band of Blades, that uses that, where I kind of have like a chart with, I know they use clocks in this game, but I feel like it'll be better with a bar graph with just like a 0, -1, 2, 3, +1, 2, 3, and that'll give you a good idea of a living, breathing world, and maybe give you a more accurate representation of like what factions your goals specifically align with. And maybe someone gives you an offer that you can't refuse that doesn't align with your goals, but the coin speaks to your soul and you can't resist it. So, and then you have to think about the consequences of that. Consequences drive story. And there will always be consequences, which is why I love that. It may sound bad, but I promise you, it'll lead to some juicy stuff. And you actually have something in this game called entanglements. Man, I'm trying not to spiral and talk about the whole game, but you can roll on a table where like a gang maybe intervenes to something that happens. So you could very easily look at your little table of factions that you're tracking and be like, oh, well, this faction really hates me. They would probably be the ones to get involved, even though they're not directly involved with this faction in any way. But then maybe now you put them as allies, and see how that can get really interesting really fast. I love that. I love that, and I also love how they build out these factions in this game. I think it's just great. They all have their own clocks and stuff. This is awesome. So yeah, that's really, without waffling any more than I already did, yeah, that's kind of the main stuff there. It may have been the crows. I did see someone also has like a tattoo artist, and I think the tattoos in this game can also like give you, I think it's maybe a vice purveyor. Weird. I forget. Yeah, that's for another time. I could have swore there was something interesting going on with the tattoos in this game. But like, let's say that's a resource that you want. So maybe now you're trying to make friends with that faction. I love that. I love that, and I feel like it's bigger than just your character. It would apply to your whole gang or faction or country or however you want to play it. So yeah, really, really cool stuff. I feel like every day I appreciate Blades in the Dark more and more. If you enjoyed this content, maybe consider slapping a like on the video, and if you want to see more stuff like this, maybe subscribe so we can dive into more videos like this in the future. I'll see you next time as we continue to explore the sacred art of gaming together.